several political allies of former President Donald Trump attended his criminal hush money trial in Manhattan today. That includes several members of Congress and some of his former rivals for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Our Robert Costa is outside the courthouse in Manhattan, where it's been a bit of a day inside and outside the courthouse. Bob, the appearance especially of Speaker Johnson, curious what that sort of says about the former president's hold over the Republican Party.
It said a lot about where the Republican Party is right now, Ed. You see the Speaker of the House, second in line to the presidency, showing up here in Lower Manhattan to show his own solidarity with former President Donald Trump. His appearance was relatively muted. I stood just a few steps away from the Speaker as he addressed reporters in the park nearby. The courthouse, he said he was there to show support for Trump, but he did not take any questions, and he sort of rushed away quickly after making a few minutes of a statement. And it's indicative that he doesn't want to wade into the details with reporters, didn't have a news conference, but he did want to, broadly speaking, show his support for Trump.
And he wasn't the only Republican there. There have been several vice presidential running mate hopefuls who've come to Manhattan over the course of the trial. How could their presence actually meaningfully impact their chances of becoming Trump's running mate?
There has been a parade of different Republicans who have come to this site to show their support for Trump. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, for example, was one of them here today. He is largely seen as a real contender to be Trump's running mate. Also, Vivek Ramaswamy, the former presidential candidate, was here, and I had a chance to speak with him. Let's listen.
Here, Vivek. Everyone's talking about the
Do you believe
temperature.
Republicans will stand by him even if he's convicted?
I think every American should stand by him, especially because of the injustice of this
But
prosecution.
are there any cracks in the Republican Party as this trial unfolds?
I think it's about Americans, right? I don't look at the partisan nature of it.
So you see from Vivek Ramaswamy a lot of support for Trump, but this is also about the Republican Party holding together. I asked Ramaswamy, do you see any cracks in the party? He, of course, said he did not see any at all at this moment. This is a Republican Party, whether it's former rivals of Trump in the presidential race on Capitol Hill. This is a party that's standing with its likely nominee, the expected nominee. They're not getting into this case and the character questions that are hovering over it. Instead, they see this, in their view, as a political enterprise that's being mounted by the attorney here in Manhattan, the District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and they're attacking him again and again, essentially echoing how Trump is approaching this case. And it shows how, while this is a legal matter playing out hour by hour, it is also charged by politics coming in the center of the political campaign.
And we should point out these visits come, of course, as Michael Cohen continues his testimony inside the courtroom. You know him, you've talked to him about this in advance, and you've been monitoring his testimony throughout the day. Your impressions of how he's done on the stand?
He has been relatively calm. There have been times in interviews and in public appearances and sometimes on the stand where Cohen can be combative and volatile, but he has been relatively contained during his testimony, working with the prosecution during the early set of questions. It's gotten a bit different as the defense has begun its cross-examination, Cohen leaning in a bit more into his answers, showing a bit more of emotion, a bit more of attitude that is typical of Michael Cohen from these types of settings.
Robert Costa outside Manhattan Criminal Court there in New York. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's pick up on this a bit more with Molly Ball and Kadia Goba. Molly is a senior political correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Kadia is a political reporter for Semaphore, that yellow publication, if you ever get it in your email or read it online. It's also her birthday. Can you believe she's spending it with us? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So you get the first question. Sure. What do you make of all this going on in New York? Why are these guys going up there?
Yeah, so
especially the speaker.
I know. When I talk to lawmakers, they say, well, they take issue with saying that they benefit explicitly from going up there, but I can't imagine why they wouldn't. We all know that Trump is very big on loyalty, and I think someone or a lawmaker going to a trial of his where, you know, he's on trial for hush money and really lashing out against the prosecutor, that says that you're a loyal soldier. And I think, you know, I don't think it impacts VP situations, but, you know, people are probably fishing for cabinet offices should he take the Oval.
I mean, the fact that the Speaker of the House, a constitutional officer, went up to Manhattan today to question the motives of the prosecutor, it's once again a Rubicon crossing kind of moment.
Well, we've never had a former president and current presidential nominee on criminal trial before, so all kinds of new things are happening in American politics. Look, there's an inside message and an outside message that these Republicans are sending, right? As Kadia said, the inside message is the message they're sending to Trump. I'm with you, I'm loyal, you can count on me. They know that he values that. There's a little bit of sucking up in the event that Trump has ideas about how he wants to staff his next administration. And then externally, obviously, it's about controlling the narrative, right? It's saying the things that Trump can't say because of his gag order. And it's really setting the perspective of American voters about what this trial means. We're going to potentially have a verdict pretty soon. This case is wrapping up. And it's going to all be about, depending on how it goes for Trump, how the public views this trial. Do they view the charges as legitimate, or do they come to see it through his frame? And I think we've seen some evidence in the way the polls have moved over the course of the trial that more and more voters are seeing it through the prism that Trump wants them to see it, the political frame.
Right. And here we are talking about the sidekicks that showed up and not the guy who was on the stand today. We talked about him earlier, but like we're taking time away from discussion the substance of the trial to talk about the politics because we've never seen anything quite like this before.
I would also add that, the House is a mess, especially Republicans in Congress. So it's probably a good idea to latch yourself to the leader of the party. It's usually the opposite, but they're actually benefiting from this, to their voters, who they're probably signaling, well, we're still extremely MAGA, even though the House is in disarray. So I think there's a lot of dynamics at play.
It is primary night in America yet again because it's a Tuesday. They're voting somewhere. Maryland, West Virginia, Nebraska. West Virginia Senate primary. Jim Justice, the Republican governor, going to become the Republican Senate nominee, face a Democrat who will likely trail. It's the Maryland Senate contest that's suddenly become a thing. And this contest between Angela Alsobrooks, who's the executive of Prince George's County, one of the suburban counties here in D.C., and David Trone, who runs essentially a wine company, made a lot of money that way, kind of speak to like the yin and yang of the Democratic Party right now, right? Wealthy guy who could self-finance, a woman who represents the most loyal voting bloc of the Democratic Party, its future, a chance for an African-American woman to join the Senate. It's kind of exactly what they would not have liked to have happened, but it's happened.
It's a big mess. Well, and as you say, Trone has spent more of his own money than any candidate in history on this primary, over $60 million. And he seems to be flailing. He very well could lose to a candidate who has a fraction of that money, doesn't have any of her own money, has had to, raise it like a real politician. She's, the very well-regarded county executive of Prince George's County outside of D.C. He's been in Congress, having spent quite a lot of his own money to win that seat in Congress as well. She's got a lot of the elected officials behind her in Maryland, and she seems to have been gaining on him in the final days, but I think it's going to be close. And as you say, it's a real signpost for the future of the Democratic Party, which way they decide to take this. Do they go with the well-qualified but underfunded black woman, or do they go with this rich white guy in what could be a very competitive race in November against Larry Hogan?
What are you watching for, Kadia, in this?
I would also argue that Democrats just don't want to see this fight. They would rather be putting their energy and their extra money into the general election that's going to come after this primary. We see the same thing happening in New York with Jamal Bowman and Latimer. They just don't want to have you. I don't think you'll have a lot of members of Congress coming out for either or. Yeah. It's really touchy, and I don't think Democrats are happy that this is happening or getting so messy. We will see who prevails and then who takes on the Republican Larry Hogan. Molly Ball, Kadia Goba, happy birthday. I'd sing, but we don't have enough time. Sorry.